All right, we are live back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. I got Richie joining me tonight. Uh, a lot to, not a whole lot to go over, but we got Richie's going to join the program tonight. Just looking at some of the things that have been coming out of college football. The um, SEC is pretty much blowing up the format for college football for all intensive purposes. It has been a very interesting and chaotic day. I'm going to assume so for the folks of the Big Ten, Big 12, and the ACC. So that is something that we got going. Um, just for the simple fact of we just have all kinds of stuff going on, and the mowing person is up against the garage door. But with that being said, we have things to get into. So, with that being said, they are adopting the 5-11 model for the 16-team playoff. I think that some of the pundits around college football were thinking that it was going to be, something that would be widely accepted. The auto bids are something that's been a point of contention. Some of the things in perpetuity that have been going on with the auto bids has been interesting, but they think that they have all kinds of things that they can get fixed on that side of the deal when it comes to the college football playoff. Now, do I think that the college football playoff is a be all end all? It's the end of the world. Um, I think that they have to get something to the effect of that's digestible for each conference. Um, Not only something that fits every model. I think last year when they adopted the 12 team, nobody really knew what it was kind of going to be. I think the SEC agreed to something that they didn't. I'm not going to say that they didn't fully understand, but it's one of those things that they feel like some of their teams got left out, like South Carolina, Ole Miss, just some teams like that. Now, do I think that they could come back and recover and figure it out? Yeah, I think they can. Um, with the new playoff format, having the at-large spots is a big deal, in my opinion. I think it helps the CFP um, get some things in order. Um, Now, when I mean by get some things in order, I mean as far as you could look at it last year and say that SMU didn't belong. You can look and say Boise got a bye, which was, you know, I think if you rolled Boise out there, they probably lose to Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina and Illinois. I think that some of the other schools in different conferences had teams that were more formidable than the group of five, and I think it gives them an out um, by having it leaves them an out in the antitrust thing, just for the simple fact of they can do some things differently as far as not get sued for not including the group of five, Notre Dame, just some other sides of the coin there. So I think that they're sitting in a good spot. I think the SEC, it was good on them to come out and say, hey, we're not going to subscribe to this format because it limits the conferences. by doing a 5 or doing a 4-4-2-2-1 format. Because a lot of times the fourth best team in the Big Ten is maybe not better than the second best team or the third best team in the ACC. If you go back and look at the conference standings, 2 years ago, you're going to tell me that Purdue, that got beat 49 to like nothing by Michigan, was a college football team? Not to say that Penn State that year was pretty formidable. I think they won the Rose Bowl maybe or something of that sort. Or they won some major bowl game, but I just think that having 11 at-large seeds fits what college football really could do. But I look at it as I don't understand why they don't want to just – each conference doesn't want to secure the best teams for their conference. I find it very unsettling because you have the where was I going with that? You have the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, ACC. You gotta make the conference mean something to win it. So I don't think that is a bad choice on the SEC for allowing that. And then on some other topics, Sarkisian of Texas, a report that came out he wasn't real thrilled with. It says they spent $40 million on NIL in their roster coming into this season. He kind of backtracks off of that and said that if we had 15 more million, we would have had a better roster. I'm kind of, when it comes to the numbers and the figures, I'm kind of out on it, just for the simple fact of I'm tired of hearing about, some of the numbers out there. There's numbers reported for certain players that I know that got way more than what was reported, and then some got way less than what was reported. So I just think that when it comes to the numbers, for people reporting on the numbers, you can do that. I mean, that's fine. To each his own, but I'm not going to get wrapped up in the numbers. It's just a lot of money exchanging hands. So whatever the bottom dollar figure is, I guess that's something for that university and that school to get it ironed out, or whatever they're trying to do. I just feel like that when you have people out there reporting the numbers the way they do, it's just something that I don't know if the clearinghouse, if they want to put this clearinghouse model in, make every university report what they paid and it comes out on a spreadsheet after the season. That would, I think, fix a lot of the issues. So that's something that I would propose. Or just don't release numbers at all and make it a guessing game. That's just something that I think I don't know if it would benefit, but a lot of the schools don't want the numbers out there just for the simple fact that they would be ashamed of what they have been paying. So I don't care. I'm not pocket watching as far as that goes. But all I'm saying is that if you're going to at least report numbers, at least give them accurate numbers to report. That's just something that I fall in line with. Do I think that with the 11 at-large seeds going back to the playoff format, do I think the 11 at-large seeds figure out with the other conferences? Yeah, I just think they should just pick the best 16 teams. That is something that that I'm on board with, because they do it in every other sport. College football, I don't know why college football has to be the exception to the rule. That's just something that's, in my opinion, that would help solve some things within the conferences. But I don't think the Big 12 and the ACC are dead because I still think Clemson gets in under the new format. Realistically, you're probably looking at maybe two. You may end up with the same model, but I don't know if the Big 10 will be able to squeeze 4 in. The SEC probably will squeeze 4 or 5 in. I think Illinois is one of the teams that, had a big gripe. Notre Dame's going to get will probably get a spot in the new format. Expanding it actually helps Notre Dame. I don't think that a lot of people realize that. And then plus, when you go back and look at it, a lot of the buys, the teams that got buys last year all lost. Semifinal weekend, no conference champion made it past their first round game. Arizona State, Boise, So it was the teams that didn't play in the conference championship that ended up winning it. So I think that it's something to be said there. Maybe people put too much emphasis on the bye. I just think you should seed them 1 through 16 and just play it. One plays 16 and so on and so forth, and you whittle it down that way. But I still think you end up at 24 by the time it's all said and done. I think that will definitely change it. And then also one of the other things that I find very interesting that they do things like the bracketology all year long, and then they show you what the projections is. But I think the one thing why the SEC blew up the 4 auto bids is the simple fact of it takes the committee out of it to a certain extent. It doesn't let the committee be the be-all, end-all when you chop it down. I think that there is something to be said about that, because if you get enough people from different conferences in there, you may have ACC athletic directors lobbying for more Big Ten teams because they're tired of seeing the SEC win it. That's one reason why I think that this format is why Sankey pushed back on it, because you have South Carolina, Alabama, and Ole Miss were in the mix for all intensive purposes for the college football playoff and did not get in. SMU got in. Boise got in. Now, the format, I think that the on-campus games plays a big role in that because of the House versus NCAA settlement, because it's another home game that you get to keep all the revenue. That's something that I think that they are really striving for, because I think that's a big deal to some of the other conferences out there, because everybody's, I'm not going to say struggling for resources, but everybody's fighting for resources. You look at Notre Dame's run last year, which, we covered that all the way through. They made a ton of money. You can't hide it. They made a ton of money. And also the Pac-12 cashing in on still having the rights to the Rose Bowl. Unbelievable deal there for that conference. But I just feel like once you get to a certain standpoint with the college football playoff, I think that they're going to have to get this hammered out. I don't see how it doesn't extend to 24 teams by the end of it. That's just something that I think that they'll end up doing. I think they'll end up pushing it to 24. I mean, the FCS has been doing it for a long time. It seems like it's pretty successful there. Why can't it work at the highest level? I think that this hurts the group of 5. Yeah, it does. I think that Greg Sankey and the SEC are not trying to indirectly affect the group of 5. But, if you look at the college basketball landscape when it comes to getting into the tournament, you have the, quad 1 games, quad 2 games. Well, one of the things that is different is that SMU got catapulted up the CFP rankings for the most part pretty easily, and they stayed there. And it's just one of those things. And then Ross Dillinger just tweeted, the CFP format took another twist this week. Pushback from its own coaches in a multi Q&A model has the SEC seriously considering a 5-11 format with an overhauled selection committee criteria. It may put it at odds with the Big Ten. See, that's what it is. Ross Dillinger has done a fantastic job in reporting on this. The Big Ten wants the auto bids. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Do I think that they're going to get the auto bids? No, I don't think it's going to happen, or it's going to completely blow up the whole model for college football, and then they're going to be right back at square one, and they still waiting on the Deloitte decision. I just think that you're not going to sell a conference that cannibalizes itself year in and year out. And I'm not trying to shill for the SEC, but you have to put yourself in those shoes. And also, like I said earlier this week, Greg Sankey doesn't work for the Big Ten. It's one of those things. He doesn't work for them, and I don't think he's going to do something that's going to put him at odds with the people that he answers to, because they'll find somebody else that wants to get their values and what they value to the forefront. I think the Big Ten and Tony Batiti better go back to the drawing board, and they're going to have to, like the SEC ate the 12-team playoff, I think the Big Ten is going to have to eat the 16-team playoff. Maybe for 2 years, and then I say they reopen it and look at it again. It's not something that I think is ideal for the most part on the Big Ten side of things. A lot of people in Big Ten country are probably going to be pissed off and say, well, why don't they want to agree to that? Well, you're asking them to cut their nose off to spite their face. They already had issues getting their teams in that they wanted in. I just think last year they were not going to put a 3-loss team in. They did not want to set that precedent. Now, do I think that this year might be different? Yeah, it could be. In the SEC, James Franklin took the shot at Notre Dame last year about not being in a conference. Well, also, the SEC only plays 8 conference games. The Big Ten plays 9. Where were you at on that one, James? That's just my only criticism on that side of it. If you're wanting to call a spade, you gotta look at it in its whole totality. But Notre Dame beat Georgia last year, so there's something to be said there. Do I think that it's going to be a complete and utter waste on this side of the coin? I don't think it's going to be a waste, but I think that you're flying this thing into some bad territory for the most part. I don't think that the Big Ten is gonna be all upset about this. Well, I think they're going to be really mad, but what are they going to do? Because the SEC and them were their main partners, and they had to know that this was coming. They had to have. If they would say, well, that we're completely blindsided and caught off guard by this, I think they're lying to you at that point. That's just something, in my opinion, that I think that they need to get fixed. So the college football new playoff format, is it going to get adopted? Yeah, because I think the SEC will take their ball and go home because they don't like your auto bid policy. That's just something that that is on the table. I think it's going to be something that they're not going to be able to stomach And if I'm Greg Sankey, I don't agree to it. But if you're watching on X right now, come on over to YouTube and join in the podcast conversation, and we'll be taking questions and all of that fun stuff. What do we got here? Billy Goldberg, college football is over. No, college football is too big to fail. But the main thing that is the crux, or is the focal point at this issue, is that the Big Ten wants auto bids. The SEC wants to go to a 5-11 format, which will be the four. Let's talk some MLB, NHL, or NBA. Well, the Pacers are about to tip off here in about 7 minutes. I think Indiana closes it out, and I think you have a wild NBA Finals, to be honest. With OKC in Indiana, it's going to be a wild finish and put the cap on the NBA season, and which the NBA gets a lot of hate because of the whole defense thing. And I'm just checking the NHL right now. Edmonton leads 3-1. Yeah, Dallas needs a win. If the Stars do not win tonight, it is over. If the Knicks do not win tonight, it is over. You're looking at the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup pretty much getting it closed out, and it's going to be on for all that. And then also coming out today, the SEC has decided they're going flat fines for field storming. It's just going to be $500K every time you storm the field. I don't quite understand that, because I think Vanderbilt raised a major stink because they had a progressive fine system in place. I think Vanderbilt ended up paying $1.2 million in between the field stormings and the court stormings, which it's a lot of money whenever you're having to come up with a hole for the $20 million maybe in the House versus NCAA settlement. So that's just some of the things in and out and coming around. And also, one of the things I wanted to get to, Texas completely vetoed moving the game from Saturday to for moving the Saturday Ohio State noon game to moving it to Sunday night. If I'm Texas, I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that, but it was their right because it was a date change on the game. I think that Texas was smart by not moving the game, because next week they would have a short week, and then they decided their AD came out and said, why would I want to move the game to Sunday night and then have a short week? I've got church on Sundays, was his reasoning on why they should not have moved the college football game. I guess, but it would have been good for the national television audience. I do know that much. In which Ohio State has been whining and complaining because of their TV deal is kind of in a bad spot, because Ohio State and Michigan have played more noon games than anybody. I believe Ohio State at 22 and Michigan at 19 over the last couple of seasons. So, and you have that looking at you square in the face, and also they have they got that whole thing they're looking at, and then Brian Kelly comes out and decides he wanted to throw his hat in the ring and say, we want to play Big Ten schools. Well, BK, that's great that you want to play Big Ten schools. Well, schedule them then. That's all that comes down to. I get it. The schedules are made years in advance. Jesus, it's a TV deal if you wanted to negotiate before you took the money. It's the time. Yeah. Well, I agree with you on that, Dave. I just don't think it's fair to the main two schools that are carrying the flag for the Big Ten, or the main three carrying the flag for the Big Ten, that they always have to play at noon. That's just something I disagree with. Now, should they have done a better job of negotiating? It took less money to have more control over their TV times. Yeah. I mean, what Ohio State play 8 noon games last year? Because whenever the TV draft came out, it was Ohio State at noon. Who do you think they were paying for? I think both brands. Well, all 3 brands. But also, this is something that's pretty rich coming from Penn State, considering from like 1897 to 1992, they were independent and they wanted to complain about Notre Dame. I find it just absolute blasphemy that the athletic department would let Franklin come out and say some stupid stuff like that, but that's just me. I look at it and I think that there's a lot of meat on the bone. The TV deals that the Big Ten is in is kind of to be desired. You have no control over anything. Fox just slaps your major brands at noon. Although I do think it's good on NBC to have a 7:30 game between Penn State and Oregon. I believe that got announced this week, which what has Dave got? They should complain they joined a conference and became a second-tier team. Well, the thing with Penn State is I don't know if you've ever been to Happy Valley, but it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of nowhere for all intensive purposes. And it just – I don't think Penn State – I mean, they made the CFP playoff this year, so I think there's something to be said there. I just don't know. I just don't know where it stops at a certain point. It's got to stop somewhere with the noon stuff. And also, my guy Richie has arrived. I'm going to add Rich in. Rich, how we doing?
Hey, happy Friday Eve, Duke, and everybody else that's joining us tonight.
Yeah, I was just went through the CFP, proposal. I know you've probably seen some stuff on it. Do you think the Big Ten overstepped their bounds by trying to force the auto bids in there?
I think they did. I just don't like what they're doing with the seeding of the playoffs now. Like we were talking about Tuesday night, Duke, put the best 16 teams in there. That's it.
And I get, because what's going to happen, let's just say let's just say hypothetically, they go through and they would adopt the 4-4, 2-2, and 1. Well, what happens on the off year that 8-4 Kansas State wins the Big 12, or a 7-6 team is the is their CFP representative? I'm trying to pull it up right now. The poll, or let's go final rankings 2022. So how it shook out in the final rankings at 2022, Georgia won. They won the Natty. TCU, Michigan, Ohio State were your 4 CFP teams. Then you would have behind that Alabama, Tennessee, Penn State, Washington, Tulane, Utah, Florida State, USC, Clemson, Kansas State, Oregon, LSU. Everybody won 10 or more games. Notre Dame wouldn't have made the CFP that year. They went 9-4. And I could even do you one better. We'll go back to 21, the first year post-COVID. The CFP teams were Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Cincinnati. Cincinnati was in the AAC. Then you have Baylor, Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Big Ten, or Michigan State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Utah, Pitt, Clemson, Wake Forest, and Louisiana Monroe. That would have been your 16. Is there any debate there?
No. There's no debate there.
I get it. It's the final rankings, but I mean, let's just go to the Big Ten conference standings. We'll go to the Big Ten conference standings. So the 4 auto teams that the Big Ten was proposing would have been Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, all made the CFP playoff. Illinois is still out. So
wait, Illinois finished 9-3?
10-3 because they won their bowl game.
Okay, sorry about that.
And we'll go to 2019 when the Big Ten had its 2 divisions in 2019. You would have had Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Minnesota as your 4 CFP teams.
And who's that 5th that year? Michigan?
Yep, Michigan went 6-3 in 2019.
Really?
Or they were 9-4 overall.
They're overthinking this, Duke. It's not hard.
No, I don't think it's hard at all. Because it's not going to let me. Because I wanted to pull up Minnesota's, if it'll let me pull up their. Let's look at Minnesota's schedule in 2019.
Yeah, give me a minute here. Let me pull that up.
I got it. South Dakota State blew them out. They won by a touchdown. South Dakota State, Fresno State took them to double overtime. They won by a field goal. They beat Georgia Southern by a field goal, beat Purdue by 7, blew out Illinois, blew out Nebraska, blew out Rutgers, blew the doors off. And then they beat Penn State that year, lost to Iowa, beat Northwestern, lost to – they ended up losing to Wisconsin, and then they beat Auburn in the bowl game. Is that a CFP team? I mean, they beat Penn State, but
that's a CFP team to me.
I'll give you Minnesota on that. I just think that when you push too hard for something, it really limits you, because if you fast forward to last year, Illinois is the team that's left out in the cold on this deal. Illinois, Iowa, Michigan. But, with the conference being so big now, I don't know.
It's going to be. But I don't. The Big Ten telling everybody, hey, 4 teams get in. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous.
Because technically, if you had a regular season champ, SMU won the regular season in the ACC their first year in it.
The first year, yep.
SMU, because you would only get SMU and Clemson, and Miami still doesn't get in. Why? If you're the ACC, why would you agree to that?
Because they're a dying conference and they have no leverage. But to me, They need the way they're going with Ohio. The Big Ten four teams. It's just all just they're just overcomplicating everything. Like we talked about, it needs to be like we've always said, 16 teams. With Miami, how the year they had this year, what 10-3, Duke?
Yeah.
They could have been in the playoffs this year.
They could have, but don't lose
They
to
could have.
Georgia. Don't lose to Georgia Tech and don't lose to Syracuse, and you're in.
Exactly.
But
exactly. Win those games. I mean, what were you gonna say?
But it's also the same thing on Ole Miss's side of the coin. Don't lose to Kentucky at home and you make the playoffs.
It's a catch-22 with everything.
And Georgia could have lost to Georgia Tech this year, and they
should have. Remember we were watching that game?
Yeah,
we watched going and going.
Yeah, I look at that and I think that if the ball bounces the other way for Georgia, they're not in the playoff. But even this past year with the Big 12, let me just how do you pick the tiebreaker on this? So Arizona State 11-3, 7-2, Iowa State 11-3, 7-2, BYU 11-2 and 7-2 in the conference, Colorado 7-2 in conference, 9-4. But out of the top,
would you go strength of schedule?
It depends on what their tiebreaker would be.
And the other thing too, Herbs made a good point when several months ago on his podcast. You gotta have like a point value for the wins, or something like that. Kind of what they do in Premier Soccer or some shit. I don't know. I don't watch soccer, but have like a if you beat a top 10, if you beat a top 5 team, you get 30 points. If you beat a top 15 team, you get 20 points. You have like a point system. I know it sounds kind of stupid, but to me, that's the only way to like shut the door on all this automatic big qualifiers. 7-2, Colorado 7-2, 9-4. I mean, that's the way you got to do it.
Because I
think they do that with hockey too. Even though hockey plays so many games, but
I look at this and I'd say, Dave, I don't think it's that hard to get the best 16 in. I get it, but playing a Big Ten and an SEC schedule is totally different than playing a ACC schedule. And then the problem you run into is what happens if Clemson decides to return to glory and runs the table and goes 13-0, wins the conference. Miami goes
10-3.
10-3 or 11-2, and then Louisville goes in their own. And Louisville's only loss is to, let's say Miami goes 12-1. Their only loss is to Clemson. Clemson goes undefeated, and then you have Louisville. Their only 2 losses are to Miami or Clemson, and they have 1 loss. You end up in the same point you are with South Carolina, because if you turn it and look at the SEC this year, Texas would have been the regular season champ, but Georgia won the conference championship game. By the 4 auto bids, you have Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. Those are your 12-team CFPs, and then you would have had Alabama in there. Was Alabama a CFP team this year? On the fringe, I think they could have beat SMU. Do I think they could have beat Ohio State? No. But the way I'm looking at it, I mean, Alabama is your 4th team in.
Yep.
So, but South Carolina, LSU, and Alabama all had the same record. They all went 9-4 and 5-3 in conference. So who do you put in? Is it the eyeball test, or do you go to some dumb tiebreaker? And then Ole Miss goes 5-3, and they end up winning 10 games. Because technically, the way the SEC standings would sit, Missouri 5-3, Ole Miss 5-3, Texas A&M 5-3, South Carolina 5-3, LSU and Alabama all 5-3. You have all those 5-3 teams. That's what I'm saying. Because that's why I don't like that 4-4-2-2-1 model.
I think it's a stupid model. They're gonna. It's just getting too. It's gonna get too messy.
It's overcomplicated, and then Boise being the Group of 5 representative. But I guess we can do a quick little reset here and hit some other topics I got. If you're watching on X, come on over to Twitter. We got Bill and Dave's here in the chat chatting it up. So hit that like and subscribe button. If you like college football, hit that like and subscribe button and help us push this through the algorithm. Off the top, the SEC 7 loss scheduled. We'll see. We'll see about that. Kirby Smart at their little thing that they are doing down there somewhere in Florida. Kirby Smart says high school recruits are getting paid $20,000 a month to uphold commitments by collectives.
In Florida?
Well, they're having some media thing like spring meetings or something, but nationwide.
Didn't Florida institute some type of NIL thing in Florida?
Yeah, a lot of the southern states can get their high school students, like Deuce Knight at Auburn. Me and Carter rode the wave of that. That was a whole fun thing. He ended up committing to flipping from Notre Dame to Auburn. But Kirby Smart's, I guess, said some high school recruits are getting paid $20,000 a month.
Jeez.
To uphold their commitment. Real quick, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but Texas refusing to move the Ohio State game from Sunday, the horns down. Yeah, I get it. They cited.
I saw Ohio State's schedule for I think it's their first 4 home games. Oh man, hey, that night game against OU. Oh boy, the Bobcats of Athens, Ohio, they are going to be shaking in their boots. Why the hell can't?
Pretty sure if you go to that game, you'll see Carter painted green. That's what he told me anyway. He said he was going to paint his whole body green and go.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he would.
Dave's here with the infamous tried and true for the Big Ten because Fox gets to pick.
I know. It's just frustrating. So
there was something that I seen also interesting that came out from Ryan Williams. Tried to get.
I know. Go ahead.
Try to get Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams teamed up, trying to team up at Georgia. Could you imagine trying to stop that?
Oh my God, that'd be impossible. And Georgia led the country in most drops this year.
So that would be unbelievable. And some of the other things we got rolling around. I know the Pacers have just started.
We game 5, dude.
Yep, game 5. Win or go home for the Knicks.
I think it's gonna be night for the Knicks.
And then we're gonna get OKC. The one thing that I will say about the NBA playoffs, I like it that we're gonna get 2 teams that have never won it in it.
Right, and that's gonna be a hard matchup to root for.
Because I
like OKC.
I don't dislike OKC. They've done it the right way. They didn't go out and buy a bunch of people. They draft and developed same way with Indiana. Although if Indiana wins it, I think that would be amazing. It would be a great thing for Indy, especially with Mr. Irsay passing away. He was big time.
If the Pacers win, you're gonna go try to go to a finals game, Duke?
If the Pacers make the finals, possibly, depending on what tickets are, and if I can do it with the schedule. Dave's here's got this. They get 3. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think when it comes to the TV viewer thing, it'll probably be OSU at noon and Michigan at 3:30 on CBS. Although I can't adapt to hearing the song, and we have a Rutgers versus Purdue.
Purdue and Minnesota. Another barn burner at 3:30 with Brent Musburger, or not Brent. What's his name? Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson.
Yes. Also, in other news, the renderings that I've seen for the CFP look outstanding. The new CFP 26 looks good. Metallica is in the game.
Yes. So I saw something on the Twitterverse that Metallica, the CF College Football Twitter page, had something with like a contest teaming up with Metallica with the school bands, and they were going to do something with, I don't know, the songs or whatever. And then they had Enter Sandman on the trailer. I had to go to my parents' house or something. I was just blasting Enter Sandman back and forth from my mom and dad's house when I had to go over there for something. And I mean, to me, that is the coolest intro.
Yeah, Vatek's got a good one. Clemson running down the hill is also great. I think that, but they said there's going to be like over 100 different custom songs in the game.
Yep, 100 different. Yep,
that the bands are going to play. So looking forward to hopping on, dusting off the old sticks and getting back onto that. So yeah, and then
I already pre-ordered mine, Duke, like a month ago.
Yeah, I probably should get on that. I got to delete 25. Although it was great to have 25 back, but I thought it was disappointing. I really did.
I think it was the beta for this upcoming game for this year's. I mean, it was just the starter, and EA is going to expand on it, which they are. I mean, you're going to be able to play high school games in Road to Glory. There's going to be, the coaches. They have the real life coaches in there now. I mean, they're just going to expand on it year in and year out.
Which I don't dislike that.
I don't either. I hated having to create Ryan Day and Marcus Freeman and Sark and DeBoer, because I would run like a multi-team dynasty on my PlayStation.
Yeah, I gotta get it cranked up and get it going. I should probably pre-order that as well. When does that release?
July 10th, Duke. July 10th. I did play my first online game against one of my buddy's kids. He whooped my butt with the team up north.
Well,
then we played another game. He was Oklahoma State and I was K-State, and I just ran the ball over him. He couldn't stop me.
Dave's here says the Ohio night game is going to be on Peacock. Wait until the Blue Hairs have to. Oh yeah, oh man, Peacock is going to get. They're going to get so much hate on Twitter for that.
Oh yeah.
They're going to get a ton of hate on Twitter for that. Also, speaking of hate, Brian Kelly, in his comments with Feinbaum down in, where is it, Destin, Florida, or Pensacola, somewhere down there, where they're having the spring meetings. This is the best roster that we've put together, is what Brian Kelly is saying.
We'll see Brian Kelly.
I would have thought Brian Thomas Jr. and Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors would have been the best roster, but
hey, maybe he's
talking in totality. So we got some another list of some other guys that are trying to make a splash this season. I'll just read the names off to you out there by CBS Sports. Brett Bielema, playoffs or no?
Playoffs. Bert's turning Illinois around.
Which I wouldn't be shocked whenever Kirk Ferentz retires. That would be my first call, would be Brett Bielema. Because I think he could modernize.
You think he's going to retire after this year?
Kirk Ferentz, whenever Kirk Ferentz decides to retire, I would call Brett Bielema.
Wasn't he on the Browns coaching staff in the 90s? I feel like he was.
Yes, Kirk Ferentz was.
Kirk Ferentz, Saban, Belichick. Who else was there? Somebody else. I can't.
Jim Schwartz was an intern.
Yeah,
they had a real star-studded class.
They did. They did have a solid coaching staff.
But also on this list, Fran Brown in Syracuse, teaming up with Steve Angeli. Playoffs or no?
They might be the dark horse from the ACC.
Controversial figure, Hugh Freeze in the Auburn Tigers.
I don't know, man. Auburn. I think Auburn's going to shock a lot of people this year.
I think so too.
With that recruiting class, hell, they got half the state of Alabama.
Brett Key and Georgia Tech, Haynes King returning. Do they push for a playoff spot?
Nah, Haynes King. We know somebody that's probably pushing for Georgia Tech.
Another team on the list, Texas Tech. Do they get out of their own way and finally have it figured out?
No, it's Texas Tech, man. I don't even know who's down there at quarterback.
Yeah, I think I don't know if Texas Tech got enough throughout the portal. I think that they got a billionaire oil tycoon funding a lot of it. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they won't. This is going to be very controversial. Sherrod Moore in the Michigan Wolverines.
I think they could sneak in. I think they could. I think they go 11-1, and they get in.
Is 9 I was going to say is 9.
I was going to say 9-3. That was my first thought, Duke. Like you were about to say 9-3, but I'm like, I think it's going to Ohio State and the team up north. They're going to go undefeated all the way till 6 months from now. They're both going to be undefeated 6 months from now. And Ohio State's going to come out and take that W in Ann Arbor.
Well,
but Michigan will get in though. I'm curious. I'm really interested to see how, with all the hype with Bryce Underwood, see how well he can translate from not, all the hype built around him, how well he can translate when he's on the big stage.
I'll just leave it at this. I think 9-3 is the ceiling. I think 6-6 is the floor, but I also have my reservations because June 6th is coming up, and I want to see how it looks after that.
It's next Friday.
The Committee of Infractions. So
Yeesh.
that is that. And then we have the last coach on the list. Brent Venables in the Oklahoma Sooners.
Oh, that's right, though. Michigan plays Oklahoma this year. It's a make or break year for Brent.
Venables.
Yeah. I feel like that game's going to be closer than people think. I think it'll come down to one possession. Oklahoma, they'll lose to Michigan.
The only thing that I think Oklahoma's revamped offense, the revamped offense is still something that is to be seen. So Michigan has New Mexico, W. Oklahoma,
W.
You think they're going to beat Oklahoma?
I feel like they're going to beat Oklahoma.
Oh, what's up, Joe?
Gigolo
What's
Joe,
going on?
what do you know?
Central Michigan.
That's a
W
W.
at Lincoln. I bet that's a 3:30 game at.
Ooh, that's probably CBS game.
Yes, it is. It's already slotted for CBS.
You said it's at Lincoln?
Yep.
Oh, no. Ah. Hmm. I think it's a W.
They got Wisconsin at home. I know
Wisconsin.
a lot of people are big that watch our show that are big Buckeye fans. I think it's curtains for Fickle in Wisconsin. I don't see it. I don't think you have enough proof of concept there. He may coach the last year on the contract. I just don't think they may not fire him, but I don't know if he'll get renewed.
Right.
Or they may just, hey, we'll just pay you this year to do it, and they'll do the national search thing. Then Michigan goes to maybe he'll replace Patricia after 1 year. Now that's a distinct possibility. Fickle back to Columbus. His wife will be happy.
Yeah.
To Michigan at USC. I think they'll beat USC.
They'll beat USC. USC. Lincoln Riley's just. What's that buyout for Lincoln? Isn't it like 50 million?
I think it's 60. I think him and Brian Kelly got the same amount.
Dude, if USC, he's gonna bolt to the NFL. I got a strong hunch he's going to the NFL next coaching cycle in the NFL.
But if you're Lincoln Riley,
they overpaid him. What's he done? He's been mediocre on the field. I mean, yeah, he's produced several Heisman Trophy winners, but Heisman Trophy winners don't get you natties when you're going 6-6, dude.
Yeah, and then we'll buzz this one real quick. Washington, I say Michigan beats Washington, gets a little get back. They got to go on the road at Sparty. I think they win a close one there. Purdue, I don't know what Purdue's going to be, honestly. I haven't really been following them. I know they got Barry Odom, so he might be able to do something. Sparty's a dumpster fire. That is true. I kind of agree with Joe there. I don't think Wisconsin's at the forefront of NIL. Northwestern is Northwestern. Then they got to go at Maryland and then Ohio State.
I think they're going to go 11-0 until 6 months from now.
I think the only game that they could lose would be Oklahoma.
They could lose it, but I feel. I think Michigan will take it.
Dave's here says, I'm assuming he's talking about Fickle. He needs to go back to OSU to rebuild his image. Yeah, because
Agreed.
Here's the thing. Fickle, let's say he leaves Wisconsin. Patricia goes back to the NFL. Fickle comes, stays at OSU 2 years, and then he'll be the hottest name in college football again. And he'll go get another Big Ten job. And then you have you got that whole side of it, and I would say he'll get a better agent, and that'll be that. Last thing, I talked about it a little bit earlier. The SEC will no longer have escalating fines for court stormings or field stormings. Agree or disagree with that?
You said they will not?
They won't. It's a flat fee of $500,000.
That's what makes college football so great. When there's a big upset, you storm the field. You're going to find the teams. I get it with player safety, but come on, people. What are we doing?
The basketball thing, the only thing that I have an issue with, it's not an issue until somebody gets knocked out.
Yeah, correct. I agree with that.
because now they sell beer in stadiums and the college kids getting liquored up, and then
Get rowdy with their natty lights and their Keystone lights.
so I think there's something to be said there. It's you know um, it's just kind of, I don't know. I'm not saying you're playing with fire, but if you get burnt, don't be upset, is all I'm saying. And also, why would you go say something to somebody that has a helmet on?
In pads. It's 6'8", 250 pounds.
Oh yeah. Here real quick, Ross Dillinger reports via David Ramsey, I believe. The Big 12 has decided not to sell stake in private equity to that private equity firm that the Big 12 was looking at getting involved with.
Really? What is selling steak?
They were going to sell part of the Big 12 to a private equity firm to raise capital.
I didn't know anything about that. You taught me something new today, Duke.
Yeah, they were looking at it hardcore, so that's just something there. And then Dave's here's got I've been saying Michigan will be 11-0 going into the game, and running close to having the ability to look at it objectively. It's a nice schedule. I don't think that Michigan's schedule is any different than any other Big Ten team's schedule.
Right.
We'll do this real quick if you got time. We'll do one thought exercise, and then we'll get everybody out of here. That is something that I know this is going to piss some Buckeye fans off, but objectively, we got to look at this.
Right.
The Wisconsin Badgers schedule this year. Miami of Ohio at home, win or loss.
Dub.
Middle Tennessee.
Dub.
Now here's
At Bryant Denny.
Yep.
L.
Maryland, but it's at
Dub.
home.
Dub.
Michigan
L.
on the road.
L.
Iowa at home.
Win.
Ohio State at home.
Camp Randall if they play them at night, that might be a tough one, but Ohio State has the athletes. I think Ohio State gets the dub on that one.
So not only, this is how bad this schedule is. Not only because you got them for one. I think they'll lose to Iowa.
Who, Wisconsin?
Uh-huh. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
So you got to.
We all know it's going to be a running game. They ain't going to throw the ball. Neither team will throw the ball.
So going into Iowa, they will be 3. They'll be 3-2 going into Iowa.
I think Wisconsin will win that game.
So coming out of Iowa, they'll be 3-3. Then they got to go. Then they have Ohio State coming. That makes them 3-4, and then they got to go on the road to Oregon.
Who's Oregon returning? I know they got Ungale's brother.
Yeah, I think Oregon will be pretty decent on defense. Their offense will be first-year starter, but I don't see them beating Oregon.
I don't either.
So that puts them at 3-5. Then they have Washington at home.
That's a win.
So it puts them at 4-5. Indiana on the road.
Indiana will win that game.
So Fickle is staring at 6-4. Illinois is at home.
That's an L.
And then to end it out, Minnesota on the road.
The Paul Bunyan axe. Fick's going to get that win. What was he at, 8-5?
Nope. 5-7.
5-7.
So I could see a world where if Wisconsin's really unhappy, I could see a world where they dump him after Oregon. Dump him after Oregon, go beat Washington, and they could lose out. And if Washington's good, I haven't really done a deep dive on them, but if Washington's good, Fick's in trouble.
Yeah.
Because that, for the Big Ten, the last 5-6 games, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota.
I mean, it's a gauntlet with 4 of those teams.
And then if you tack Iowa on there, if Iowa's even remotely decent, you spit the bid on that. I could see a world if – I don't know what Maryland's going to be with Mike Locksley. I just don't know until I see it. But then again, you know, we live in the Midwest. Who is really paying attention to Maryland football? Let's say Maryland sneaks one. They lose. And if he's – after Alabama, it's not looking good if they're not good on offense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Fickle find a nut and maybe crush one and beat Ohio State for old time's sake. That would be a job saver.
That would. It really would, yeah.
I mean, look what it's done wonders for James Franklin. So I guess that is where we can conclude tonight's episode. Appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate Richie jumping on with me tonight. For everybody watching out there on Twitter, come on over and hit the like and subscribe button. Give us a follow. If you like college football, like this podcast. But with that being said, Rich, I don't got anything else. You got anything?
No, I got nothing else, Duke. Everybody, thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. Happy Friday Eve.
And let's go Pacers. I think they're down right now. Yep, they're down 29-32. Hopefully the Pacers can close this out. Everybody have a good night.
One day closer to football.